This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Tuesday, the 18th day of April in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. In an early morning Facebook presentation this morning, President Irfanali rejected claims that his party, the PPPCivic, has bought out candidates and paid for support for the upcoming local government elections. The president said such claims are an insult to some of the new faces that have joined the PPP for the local elections.
And then you're saying that people were paid to put on a jersey. This is how you think and believe in our people. This is how you view our Guyanese brothers and sisters, especially our Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters, that they're so susceptible that they can be paid to put on a jersey. This type of disparaging politics, disparaging view of people is disrespectful, and I denounce it.
Opposition leader Aubrey Norton has accused the government of doling out tax dollars for its nomination day activities. The president has rejected that claim also.
You cannot disparage people this way, that they can be bought with money. That is what we fought for against slavery and indentureship. People cannot be bought in a modern society. You don't believe that our Afro-Guyanese brothers and sisters who joined us, that they have the capacity to think and analyze for themselves.
Some of the ruling party's candidates for the local elections are persons who were recruited directly by the president, including businessmen and sporting personalities who have landed government contracts over the past few years. The president said political parties should campaign on ideas and not disparage people based on their political leanings. He said his party is set to contest all local authority areas with the aim of bringing development to those areas. The president also made an early morning appeal for citizens to lend their support to his party. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say. But now that it's here, it will change life forever. And it is here to stay. The future is now. Transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
At Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
Bust the flavors. We're full of flavors. Bust the flavors that me crave for. We're full of flavors. Tell your neighbors about the bust the flavors. Grab a bust the flavors. Yeah, thirst buster. Grab a buster. Bust the flavor, taste the savor. Bust the flavors. Bust the flavors.
Strong and solid in countries far and wide. New India Assurance, we're standing by your side. Golden service, half a century and more. New India Assurance, our policies are secure. From the heart of India, we serve these islands. The strength that you can trust, you're safe when you come to New India Assurance Company. Assurance when you need it most.
For your home, motor or business insurance, visit New India Guyana office, 58 Brickdam next to Star Computers. Telephone 2260-415-7. Comfortable parking available.
Opposition Member of Parliament Amanzo Walton Desir has called for a collective approach to deal with the issues faced by people of African descent in different parts of the world, especially in countries like Guyana. Speaking at the 2023 National Action Network Convention in New York, which had the U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and civil rights activists as part of the audience, MP Walton Desir said Afro-Guyanese are not spared from exclusion from the country's wealth. She called for more to be done for Afro-Guyanese, explaining that for small countries such as Guyana, it was expected that every Guyanese would cash in from the country's oil resources, but that's not currently the case.
This is not happening. Contrary to what you read, contrary to what you may hear, this is not happening. Guyanese are not experiencing a good life. And predominantly, the Afro-Guyanese population has been made to suffer the brunt of what is currently emerging to be a totalitarian regime.
Walton Desir told the international audience that issues relating to Afro-Guyanese are usually swept under the table. She told a story of a businessman in Boston who was shot dead by the police while he slept in his house. The opposition MP also told the story of the female police officer who was allegedly spat on and called derogatory names by an attorney.
As the diaspora from diverse parts of the world, as we continue to work together, we will be able to make the difference. We have a shared tragedy called slavery. We have gone through 400 years of shared trauma, and I firmly believe that together, as a people, working together, we can share triumph.
The National Action Network Convention brings together black leaders from across the world to share their views on a range of issues. The convention was addressed by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris, several members of the U.S. Congress, as well as prominent religious and other U.S. leaders from various industries. The chairman of the International Decade for People of African Descent Assembly Guyana Coordinating Council, Vincent Alexander, today said the recently announced money that will be given to the 55 Afro-Guyanese organizations by the government does not relate to the subvention that should be paid over to IPATG. Hours after the High Court took a decision on Friday to hear the case filed by IPATG against the state over the withholding of the group's subvention, the Attorney General Anil Nandlal announced that the government will be disbursing this year's subvention to 55 organizations representing Afro-Guyanese across the country. Mr. Nandlal said the organizations are the founding members of IPATG, and the funds are intended to support the objectives of the decade. But while Mr. Alexander did not dispute the organization's membership, he contended that a grant to be given to the 55 organizations is separate and apart from IPATG's subvention.
Our position is that what the government is doing is not giving the subvention to organizations, it's giving them cash grants. The question of the subvention is still a matter before the court, and unlike what has been in the public domain, the motion we have filed in the court does not address 2022, it addresses the entire period on to 2024. So the matter of the subvention is still the contentious matter.
Alexander also said 3 of the Afro-Guyanese organizations represented on the council have already indicated that they will not be accepting the financial grant or subvention from the government over its decision to withhold funds from IPATG.
When our coordinating council met, there were members of the council who took that position, that they would not be recipients of handouts. And that was unsolicited.
According to Alexander, the Coordinating Council intends to present the facts to the 65-member organization when the General Assembly meets this coming weekend.
It is for them to decide as individual organizations whether it would take a cash grant from government. We will not be prodding them one way or the other. We will, however, be making it clear to them that what they're being offered has nothing to do with the subvention.
IPATG was established in 2017 as the country coordinating mechanism for the UN Decade of People of African Descent through a process involving 31 member organizations at the time. Mr. Alexander said the work of IPATG takes place within the framework of the United Nations resolution. Ipadaji, he pointed out, has set up efficient offices with transparent and accountable management systems, developed a strategic plan, and notwithstanding the COVID-19 pandemic, executed several projects. Apart from the issue of funding, Alexander said the government has misconstrued the initial intent and vision of Ipadaji.
In our role as a country coordinating mechanism for the decade, in July 2022, we wrote to the President seeking a meeting to discuss issues of concern to the African community. No response. After 2 in-person reminders directly to the President during chance meetings, resending the original letter at the request of his office, and a second note from Ipadaji's chair, we have not had even the courtesy of a response. This, in addition to the withdrawal of the subvention and the denial of the use of taxpayer-funded public space for our Black History Month Community Forum on issues of land ownership affecting African Guyanese, are unmistakable signs of contempt. We view these actions towards Ipadaji as a part of a pattern established by this administration for the decapitation of the representative bodies within the African Guyanese community. Bodies whose collective action, if allowed to come to full fruition, could have the capacity to organize and successfully ensure equal treatment for the people of African descent.
The government has accused the organization of misusing its resources, but the organization has refuted that claim.
Individuals are reminded that when filing an individual income tax return, if you have multiple employers, you must file only one individual income tax return. However, the original of each emolument 7B slip obtained from the respective employers must be attached to the return, and the aggregated income should be used to compute your taxes. Remember, only one individual income tax return must be submitted to the Guyana Revenue Authority for individuals with multiple employers.
Get ready for the ultimate event as Mackenzie Alumni Association presents official Night of Elegance. Reunion and fundraiser. It's going down on Friday, 21st of April at the Edward Benjamin Conference Center, Linden, Guyana. Ticket donation $50. Dinner included. Come and enjoy the vibes from old school R&B and hip hop. It's the official Night of Elegance. Night of Elegance.
Region 10 Chairman and APNU representative on the list, Darren Adams, said no amount of money will be able to buy the support of the party's stronghold come the 12th of June elections for local government. Amid taunts from the supporters of the ruling PPP, Adams said the coalition's list, which was submitted on time on nomination day, contains candidates with reputable background, unlike the PPPCivic list, he said.
We are going to win these elections. We have credible candidates that were vetted, and the community will welcome them. Unlike what is on the other side, persons who are run-ins with the law, and we are going to beat them on E-Day.
Among those on the PPPCivic's list is Keith Ferrier, a former arson accused. Ferrier was accused of setting fire to the Ministry of Health building back in 2009 under the PPPCivic government. However, he was cleared of the offense in 2016 due to a lack of evidence. Minister of Public Works Juan Edgel, who traveled to Linden to spearhead the PPPCivic's nomination day activities in the town, complained that the party was not allowed to submit its list first, though they had camped outside of the Commission's office hours ahead of nomination day. That aside, he said the process was smooth and the party was ready to hit the ground.
We are hitting the ground running, and I want to remind all Linden and all Guyana, our politics is not a politics of hate. The APNU and the Green Shirts are our political opponents. They're not our enemies, they are just political opponents. And we're going to work with everybody.
Singling out the APNU, Minister Edgell said the PPPCivic was ready to welcome supporters of the coalition with open arms and will ensure that the policies and programs of the government are well articulated for every citizen.
And our intent is to work with you and bring you over. So it's time for work. We're going to hit the ground. We're going to knock on every door. We're going to go to every stall. We're going to talk to the old, the young. We're going to talk to the Christians, the Muslims, the Hindus. We're going to talk to the Rasta man. We're going to talk to the young youth. We're going to talk to the wild man and the tame man. We're going to talk to the fancy girls and the not so fancy girls. And we're going to ask them to support the PPPC, and we will present them programs and policies that will bring development to Linden. Linden cannot remain the same.
Edgell also used the opportunity to sing praises about the President and the Vice President for their development policies.
And I think one of the things that we need to say today, and make it very clear, number one, President Irfan Ali's leadership in Guyana is something that must be applauded with his And for this turnout this morning, candidates and backers, is testimony to the leadership, programs and policies of the Irfan Ali-led administration. Secondly, the Vice President, who's also the General Secretary of the PPP, you know his leadership is one that is strong, decisive, and deliberate. And we want to applaud the Vice President for his leadership.
Historically, the People's National Congress Reform, which is the major partner in APNU, has won Linden overwhelmingly over the years, both at local elections and general elections. The Amerindian People's Association has defended its request for the Architecture for the Red Plus Transaction Secretariat to suspend the issuance of carbon credits to Guyana. In its complaint to the Red Plus Secretariat, the APA recommended that the credits issued to Guyana that have not been purchased be suspended, and that no further credits be issued until the government fully respects the rights of indigenous people in Guyana. The association said the call for the suspension of the issuance of further credits is premised on the fact that the government has failed to uphold the tenets of free, prior, and informed consent when engaging indigenous communities. The APA's recommendation has been met with fierce criticism from the government, with the Vice President Bara Jagdeo accusing the organization of playing politics with the livelihood of the indigenous people. Coming to the defense of the government, Chairman of the National Tushaus Council, Derek John, in a recent letter to the editor, said it is the APA that has violated the principles of free, prior, and informed consent. According to the NTC chairman, the Amerindian Association did not inform or consult the National Tushau Council or any other indigenous village before lodging the complaint. In its response today, the APA said both the Vice President and the NTC Chairman are misguided. It said at no stage did it attempt to block indigenous communities from accessing funds, but rather sought to have the government address a menu of issues plaguing indigenous people, including the need to revise the Amerindian Act to conformity with international human rights standards, resolve all outstanding indigenous land claims, including land extension application under the Amerindian Land Titling Project, the implementation of the IACHR recommendations relating to mining in the scenario, and UN CERT's recommendations on the invasion of miners on Chinese landing titled lands. It also wants a thorough engagement with indigenous peoples be conducted nationally to determine the most appropriate and informed method of benefit sharing from the sale of the carbon credits. Under the current regime, indigenous communities will be receiving 15% of the revenue from the sale of carbon credits. However, the APA has argued that there was a lack of consultation. The APA said the recommendation for the suspension of the issuance of further credits can be revised once the government begins to address the issues plaguing indigenous peoples of Guyana. The APA said it expects the chairman of the NTC as the leader of the NTC to always advocate for indigenous people's rights and respect those rights. Moreover, it said those include the rights of communities to legally represent their own interests and concerns through their village councils, as vested in the Amerindian Act of 2006, which at times would distinctly differ from the actions of the NTC chairman. It maintains that while the NTC serves a crucial advisory role, it does not have the legal authority under Guyanese law to make decisions about indigenous lands on behalf of villages.
Foodmax Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Foodmax and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Foodmax, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true, or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Look who's in the mix now. The new Buster Soda Water. 0 calories, 0 sugar, 0 artificial flavors. 100% refreshing. Taste Buster Soda Water today. Buster Soda Water. Now available for only $120.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive.
Across the region tonight, CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett says an action plan to be implemented across the region will be compiled at the end of the CARICOM Crime Symposium in Port of Spain, Trinidad. She said the regional leaders owe this to the citizens of their respective countries, since most CARICOM leaders spend a lot of money to fight crime, limiting their financial contributions to other important national goals in the education, health, and social services sector. Earlier, the chairman of CARICOM, Philip Davis, the Prime Minister of the Bahamas, in his address to the Crime Summit, said the crime problem needs an all-hands-on-deck approach. He said an epidemic of violence grips the region, one that claims lives and generates fear and anger. In 2022, he noted Jamaica had a staggering homicide rate of 52.9 per 100,000 inhabitants. Trinidad and Tobago had a rate of 39.4 per 100,000, and the Bahamas, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines all recorded homicide rates above 30 per 100,000. He said that's over 5 times the global average and cannot continue. In Antigua, teachers across government schools in Antigua and Barbuda have been continuing their fight for what they say are issues of national importance, their working conditions. Students were sent home on Monday after 2 weeks vacation due to a sit-in being staged by their teachers in all government schools. Tensions between the government and the Antigua and Barbuda Union of Teachers remain high over the apparent lack of effort by the Education Ministry there to address issues constantly voiced by the nation's teachers, including long overdue reclassifications, inadequate security at the schools, and similar working conditions. A threat of industrial action by the teachers forced the Education Ministry to postpone the reopening of schools following the Easter holidays and instead extended the break by an additional week. The Ministry of Education since then said it has addressed 90% of the demands by the teachers, but the disgruntled educators are far from satisfied. And finally tonight, international news. The BBC reports that in a last-minute deal, US voting technology company Dominion has settled with Fox News just before their defamation trial was due to begin. Dominion was seeking $1.6 billion from Fox, whom it claimed spread falsehoods about its voting machines in the 2020 presidential election. The final settlement agreed between the two parties was for $787.5 million. In a statement, Fox said the settlement reflected its commitment to the highest journalistic standards. Dominion Chief Executive John Poulos told a press conference the historic settlement included Fox admitting to telling lies, causing enormous damage to the company. Opening arguments in the case had been due to begin on Tuesday afternoon. The announcement of a settlement came after an unexplained delay of several hours once jury selection had finished, prompting speculation that settlement talks were on the way behind the scenes. On Monday, Delaware Supreme Court Judge Eric Davis announced that the start of the trial would be delayed by 24 hours. Although he gave no reason, U.S. media reported it was to give both sides the opportunity to reach a settlement. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting and encouraging you to stay safe.